Hello. Come on, Unity. How are we all doing today? Good, good. I'm doing all right. Hey, would you look at that? It's 4 o'clock. All right. Unity, have you decided to open up? Oh, good. It's about time. Error searching for packages. Neat. Let's get back into Package Manager. My assets, please. Okay. Good stuff. Yeah. Package Manager is fine. All right, let's get this sweet Elder Scrolls music off. And let's talk Unity. So I was doing some planning earlier today for timings and all that fun stuff. And we have 1 week, 2 weeks of class left. And you all have but small term projects that you're going to be working on, right? So what I will probably have you all do, well, not probably, what I will have you do is you're all going to do a short presentation on what you did. Very low effort, very low stress, mainly just demonstrating what you worked on. But since there are, I believe, 19 of you, the last actual week of class is probably going to be At least like a class and a half will be presentations, I think. I'll send out an announcement for that soon, and I will put up everything that you need. What I also typically do for term projects as well is you don't have to necessarily be done the last week of class, but what you should be is fairly close to done for your presentation. And normally I give you until like the end of finals week to turn it in, if that's helpful for you. Basically, it's a little bit extra time, hopefully when you're done with exams, to submit. Obviously, you can submit it sooner if you'd rather. But our final is going to be, where's it at? April 28th. So that is basically a week, 2 weeks from Wednesday. So just kind of have that on your radar, I suppose. We'll do a short little final exam review again, kind of like we did for the midterm too. But yeah. Remaining plans for the semester then. So you have the Blender homework due next Wednesday. Hopefully that's not too rough. So we got Blender, so that's April 16th. So, sorry, next Friday. And then the 23rd, I'll probably have you do a short Unity assignment too. Quick question about Lab 5. We export the Blender file. The textures should still show up in Babylon. It depends. So the export can be a little bit wonky. 9 times out of 10, when I export out of Blender, the textures don't show up. The donut that I exported last class, I was surprised that it was kind of purple. I think there is a way to make it happen. I have not successfully been able to replicate it. Yeah, that's kind of the thing. So with your, if you're exporting these files, it depends on the importer. So some of them will try to read textures, some of them will, or textures and material, some of them will ignore it. You saw when we brought it into Unity, it also brought in the camera and the light source as well, which is kind of interesting. It just depends on the importer, I think. And I know there are a bunch of settings in Blender that you can set as well for at least trying to like bake on textures and stuff of that nature. Yeah, it's iffy, I think. So yeah. The Blender Lab, so I know I sent that up in the Discord um, as an announcement and then just Discord saying it was up and ready to go. Let me pop over to my drive here. Doot, 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 doot. And boop. So this lab is honestly, hopefully pretty straightforward. I ran through it. It didn't take me very long to go through it. Basically just following along these PDFs. And you're going to make a donut shrine in a house. I think I showed you this last time too. But you can be creative if you'd like. You can play around with the models and see what you come up with. As long as you hit the base requirements, I'll be happy. If you want to go above and beyond and play with it, it's kind of fun, I find. So yeah, make sure that you don't put this off to the last minute just in case if Blender starts acting funny for you. But yeah, then we'll do a little bit of Unity, and the Unity lab won't take you. It shouldn't be a whole lot of effort. It's a good beginner project, and if you're an expert at Unity, feel free to take it above and beyond, since I'm sure you can get it done pretty quickly. But let's talk Unity. So I've got a scene here. So this is a fresh project, and where we are at is, let's see, we had we didn't have our house, so we were just talking kind of the interface, right? I know I was bouncing all over the place with with various aspects of it. But let's add on a sphere, 3D object, sphere. Here's my, oops, here's my sphere. Let's render in. We have remember we have our inspector over here. These are all the properties per object. If I click the camera, we see camera properties, sphere properties, light source properties, all this kind of fun stuff. And I don't think I talked too much about scaling and all that, but these properties here allow you to kind of play with the position, rotation, and scale of the object. And this is just going to be in your XYZ coordinates. So we have that object there. Um, we can also, I know we did the rigid body as well last time, but I'm just going to throw on a rigid body here as well. And it gets gravity by default, right? So Unity's been really slow for me today. We can turn off gravity here. We can add some kinematic properties as well. Mass drag and angular drag if we were going to play with its physical properties. But if I throw on a plane, plane, there we go. And I move either my plane down or my ball up, it doesn't really matter. But if I go ahead and hit play now, boop, beautiful. So the plane has a collider by default on it. And if we didn't have that rigid body, we wouldn't have gravity with the ball. If I tilt my plane, so let me rotate it. That's not the direction I want to go. I want to rotate it over X. Let's do it that way. So if I rotate my plane and my ball drops, there it goes. And you know what? It is not easy to see, so let's go ahead and add on a material. So I'm going to go create material, and I just right-clicked and I dropped it down here. What I should probably do is add I don't want to do a gain object. I am doing too many things at once. No game object, thank you. I'm going to create a new folder here just to kind of show you one way that you can organize your project. So I'm going to create materials. Let's create a folder for scripts. And I'm going to reuse this project as well. So, and I'm going to move my material into this folder. And let's play with this material. Let's make it, what am I feeling today? Teal? Teal is a good color. Okay. Teal, a little bit of metallic. Can see the preview down here. Nice and, let's make it like a pinball. Okay, I have a material. Rename. Pinball material. I'm just going to drag this right onto the object. And now we have a plane and a ball. I could get the basics of a pinball game going now if I wanted. But we have basically, the idea here is that we've got some various things going on. So I added on that rigid body component. We have a collider component. We have a material which is getting added in to our sphere here. So it's under mesh renderer. If we remember meshes, that's our topology, that is our geometry, and that's the texture we are applying to something. So what you see here is this was kind of hidden, but I unticked that, it expanded, and we see this material right there. Now this is something very common in Unity if you're not familiar with it. There's these little like circles with a dot inside of it. This basically means that you have to drag some components onto it or some object or some material. So if I were to add another material, let's do another one. Let's call this one just green. Oops. Green, please. Right there. Thank you. And if I went ahead and I picked my ball, I can drag this right here, and now it's green. Or I can click this little dot, and here's all the available things inside of Unity which match what it's expecting. Okay. I could also attach a physics material to it, so based on how I want the collisions to work, I can attach scripts onto this thing, which we will in a little bit. Basically, we have, if you see a slot like this, it's expecting an object. And this is going to be an object reference, and this is something that you're going to also see when we talk about scripting here in a bit. So we have our object here, okay? We have a rigid body. We can also play with its properties as well. So let's make it a thick boy. Oops. Push bullet, you need to not be on. So if I run this now, it should be heavier, basically. So we should see it like kind of thunk. And we can also add other properties too, like we can make it bouncy, right? So it's going to have like a bouncy factor if we were to go ahead and play around with our various rigid body properties that we have there. Some of them you would script, some of them you would just add a property to. We can also, so let's make this 0 again. So we've got a nice flat plane. I can also animate my, let's animate my ball here. So let's turn gravity off. So we'll leave the rigid body on for now. And I could do some basic animations in here too. So we want to add on component misc animation or window animation. So animation, animation. Then you get a timeline here at the bottom. So basically what you're going to do is add keyframes into this particular window that you see here. We see our real world time. And if I were to go ahead and animate this thing, a keyframe is basically just the state that it is in at that particular time. And we're not going to go deep into animation, like we're just going to see a basic thing, but it's going to try to interpolate between your keyframes. So let's go ahead and create an animator. So let's leave it as new animation. Okay. And now we're going to add a property, transform, position. Okay. You see this keyframe here. That's this little diamond. That's probably kind of hard to see. What are we going to do here? I'm just trying to remember what I had. So we have something at 0. Let's say it's 10. We move it down. We move it this way. And we want to add a key. So what we're going to see when we move is the thing just kind of automatically figures out where to go. And we can go really, really deep into animation here. Like I could add a smoothing factor, I could have it ramp up or ramp down. Basically anything that you could think of as far as when you see animations, this would be something that we could handle there. So if I were to go ahead and run this now, we should see an animation. It kind of just looks like a looping GIF right now. And I have gravity off. So if we turn gravity back on and we play, it's actually going to ignore it because it's directly impacting the position. Okay, gravity off. So we have basic animations, and you can transform whatever you want. So you could do scale, you could do rotation, position. There's curves here too, so if we go back into our animator, and if we view the curves, this is where I was saying that you can kind of play with how smooth this animation is. So you kind of get a, if we do something like that, kind of wacky, whoop, whoop, something like that. It's one thing that's kind of interesting here too, which seems to be there by default, is it's got a, what's the word I'm looking for? It doesn't have the, shoot, do this all the time in After Effects. It's basically the smoothing, so you don't have like a shadow going through. Like we see it at specific locations as we go, but you should have like a nice smooth, pleasing to the eye aesthetic there. But animation, pretty straightforward. We can also go, and so we have our inspector, so we could loop this. Yeah, basically, you kind of get the idea, I think. Animation is not something that I have played with too much, to be honest. I tend to, when I'm in Unity at least, I tend to do like, let's update the physical position, let's add velocities, things like that, so that the animation is actually a real world thing. But if you want to just render a movie or something like that, it's totally possible in Unity. Okay, so we talked about lighting, so I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this animation for now. So we should just have A sphere. Yep. Our animator is gone. And let's make it gravity-based again. All right, good, good. So yeah, we have also lighting possibilities too. So game object, lights. So right now we have a directional light, so you kind of see that it's aiming in a particular direction. Again, we can kind of play around with that as well. And I moved it down in a way. And the lighting should be a little bit different here. So if I move it like way out of the way, we should have kind of different lighting. So let's make its intensity 0. No lights, no shadow. Make its intensity back to 1. Let's make it 0.5. Kind of twilight or dusk or something like that. So kind of grayish, right? And I can actually play with these properties live too, don't forget. So if I want to get a quick preview of what something actually looks like, you know, I can actually play with these, and these will persist once you untick play. So if I want its intensity to be 5, or 1, or 0, right, we can kind of see that here. I could change this from a directional light to a spotlight, where we're going to have to way increase the range because I moved it way far out of the way. Actually, no, it doesn't persist. My mistake. I thought for some reason it did. I must be thinking of something else. Maybe it's Godot that does that. But yes, regardless, it does let you play with this. So I could also do point lights as well. So point light is just, imagine like a light bulb in space with nothing to kind of obfuscate the light rays there. So we have light source. Makes sense. Materials we talked about as well. Materials also exist in the Play Store. I think that we talked about that as well. But just for funsies, we've got some metal materials that I downloaded last time. Yeah, let's not import this all, although might as well since it's going to get stuck here importing. Right, so let's go ahead and just import pattern 1. So what I did there is I unticked everything and I just checked the box that I wanted. And again, that goes into your assets here. Let's go ahead and drop that right on. Oops, my material disappeared, right? Well, 1 material per object unless you get into the node editor or the shader graph, which we will look at on our last class, I believe. But nice and pretty texture there. All right, let's see. We've got a couple more things here. We're basically going to go through terrain and then we will move on to scripting. So I added this terrain object. Terrain is a lot of fun. This is basically going to be the ground that your objects walk on. That's this thing here that I added before, but it's pretty ugly. It's just white. Let's add that on. So now we have a metal ball on a metal surface. Delightful. Look at that. How could you not love that? Let's rotate this a bit. You know what? Let's not rotate this a bit. Let's stick with the actual slide definitions here. All right, one thing that you can do with terrain is you can actually paint it. So I'm going to go ahead and make this a bit bigger. So I'm going to move it, let's say, 3 in the X, 3 in the Z. Let's rotate it in X again, and let's move our ball down here so that it rolls. Okay, so we now have tilted surface, nicely textured. Let's deform it. Let's add some trees. Let's add some beautiful foliage. Let's move our camera a bit as well, because that camera is just not in a good place. So let's move our camera up. Let's rotate it around X so we can see everything nicely. We're going to kind of go like that. All right, so I'm basically just playing in Unity here. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to stop me. Okay, there goes our ball. We see the material rolling along with it, and it's going to disappear forever. Goodbye, ball. It was nice knowing you. So first things first, let's play with our terrain a bit. So if I pick terrain, we actually should get a different different thing here. Now, where is my terrain painter at? Oh, this is a plane. I'm an idiot. We need terrain. Sorry. Sorry. Terrain, not a plane. Thank you. Okay, you. I was playing with the plane the whole time. Nobody stopped me. All right, let's go like this. Let's go this way. Hey, there's our nice terrain. Look at that. Where's our ball? Focus. Focus on the ball, please. There you are. Let's move you up. Up. Go get from the side. We see that. Perfect. Let's make our terrain 0.25, 0.25, 0.25. That's not going to make it smaller. Oh, it did make it smaller. Scale. Nope, that's right. It doesn't do that. I'm being silly here. Terrain doesn't scale. But we can position it, and we can rotate it. No, we want centered. There we go. Okay. Side view of the terrain. We should get a rotation. Why aren't you rotating? Whee! Let's do something crazy. Let's add our camera to our ball. Whee! Boop. Nice and flat. Why am I thinking that this terrain... But we could rotate that. I'm guessing we can't. Yeah, well. We will play with that in a little bit. But with our terrain, what we can do, let's go to our sphere. Sphere, please. There you are. Let's look at your top view. And let's zoom in a bit. With our terrain, we can paint it, which is kind of interesting. So I can kind of deform my terrain. Oops, too close. Got a nice little mountaintop here. So just by kind of painting, hey, we got mountains. How about that? Can change my brush, could do nice nice hexagons. I can make my brush size bigger so that we get lots of mountains. Can change its opacity. So basically, you just paint your terrain like you would paint anything. And our ball now needs to go way up. Because we'd made our terrain very, very tall. Now let's drop this now. Wow, that looks awful. Camera, go to the sphere, please. Rebuild. Wow, that is a beautiful game. Whee! Gorgeous. All right, so basically what's going on here is that our terrain's got no color, nothing nice here. Clearly we need some trees. So we need to add a tree. Oh, we don't have a tree yet. That's right. I forgot. We'll come back to that. First, let's make our terrain nice and pretty. Let's make it a ba, ba, ba. Terrain materials are a bit different than, ooh, trippy. Spatial mapping wireframe. Um, they are handled a little bit differently. Well, I'm going to get rid of this terrain for a moment, and we're going to add on a new one. 3D object, terrain. The other thing with terrain is so its size is actually not the X, Y, and Z. Here it is, 200 by 200. There we go. That's what I was looking for. And we want our ball now to be 5, 0. We want you kind of in the middle and this way. Okay. So, and just for fun, let's move our camera. Where's our camera at? We want our camera. Oh, you're way down there. You gotta be higher up. Come on. Do you know how a terrain collider differs from a normal collider? Offhand, I don't know the particulars, I guess I should say. I know that they are mildly different, or they're at least in a different spot. Okay. Camera, go back. Want that ball. Okay, terrain. There's gotta be a... I could have sworn that you could angle the terrain, but maybe I'm thinking you can't. It's very clearly it's not. Yeah, transform's not doing anything. All right, well, we have a terrain. Let's paint a brush size. Can be nice and small. Opacity. Let's go to the top view. Let's see what happens now. Perfect. Okay. Sphere. F. Top view. Nope. Top view. Where'd you go? All right, so you need to move in the Z direction. Okay, let's try this now. Delightful. Just perfectly on top. Let's shift you just a little bit that way. So the other thing with the collider on the terrain too, why aren't you rolling? You have to be kinematic. Make the mass a little lighter. I'm sure there's a setting that I'm missing here for this too. Oh, when you're kinematic, you don't have gravity by default. That's right. Well, we'll play with this later, I suppose. Now I'm just kind of, now I'm just wasting time doing this. There we go. It must have just been catching on the lip. But we have our terrain. Okay, let's add some trees and some grass. So if I want to add some trees, I need to do game object, 3D, tree. Now we have a tree. And I could define what this tree looks like if I want to, you know, spend a lot of time adding leaves. Let's add some leaves. Yeah, I am not good at drawing trees, by the way. We're just going to get wiggly stumps. But kind of the key here is that if you want to do, trees, you could, let's see. Yeah, I'm not I'm not going and downloading a new asset for this right now because I think that'd be more of the same. But we have a tree. Let's go ahead and we'll leave it there. I want to paint a tree on. I need to actually go ahead and pick the tree, which is this tree object right here. Okay, and now I should be able to add some trees. No trees defined. Did I not pick it? Tree. Oh, I didn't hit add. My mistake. Hey, look at those trees. They're all wiggly and gross. Let's add some trees over here. You would basically just go through and define what your trees look like. Kind of have like a Tim Burton thing going here, it seems. And you can have them be randomized, like the branch placement and the leaf distribution and all that fun stuff. But we're just starting with the super exciting dead fall trees. Okay, so we have that. You can also do grasses and flowers and fun stuff like that too. So we could add, let's see. I think we need to go ahead and actually add grass texture. Okay. Oh, this is what I did before. I just picked a random texture. This is fun. Hey, look at that grass. It's beautiful. Let's put some grass on our little stump here. Where is it at? Oops, too far in. Why do we have that selected? I want grass right here. Is it not like the grass render is kind of weird too in the preview? Let's see if we get something here. There it is. Oh, beautiful. Look, it's even swaying in the wind. Ew. It's like Jello. You put too many of that in, it will get really bogged down. Okay, so trees, grass, decorate your terrain, make it nice and pretty. I put 0 effort into the trees and the grass very clearly. You would define the material, you would apply it to the tree, to the grass, flowers, that kind of fun stuff. And go ahead and add that in. I've got a link here to the Unity tutorial too for trees if you want to play with that. It walks you through kind of everything here. Although this is for 2020. Kind of interesting that all the pictures are gone. Maybe it's deprecated. Okay, trees, grass, terrain, hopefully makes sense. We also have physics in here as well. And what we're going to do is we'll talk physics for a second, then we'll move on to scripting. So things that you're going to care mainly about when you add in physics. So I added the rigid body, and that just defines that this is a physical object that can interact with the rest of the world, right? It gets a default collider. We can apply forces to it, like the velocity, instead of just moving its position. Like if I need a, oh, perfect, Kirby. You can be my sphere. If I define Kirby here to be a physics object, sorry, if I give it a rigid body component, and I want to say move him because I'm hitting the left arrow key, if he's got no rigid body, I would have to move his position. And that's kind of a pain to do if you're dealing with a physics-based system. If I put a rigid body, I would then say I hit the left arrow key, maybe I increase his velocity in a particular direction. So I'm actually working with physics-based forces to kind of push him along. The actual position in the world is automatically calculated from that. But if you want to handle collision, so maybe if you collide with a coin instead of an enemy, instead of a tree, you can define a callback function, which would get triggered. So if I start colliding with something, on collision enter would trigger. If I'm done colliding with something, on collision exit. Or we have a generic on collision function, which is common to use as well. Basically, you would use these when you want to actually do something like specific. So if I pick up a coin, my score goes up by 1 or something like that, right? So we have those properties there. I realize I'm not showing this to you in presentation mode, but I'm just kind of, bouncing around from Unity to slides to back and forth. Right, so I showed you um, the 3D controller demo as well last time, right? I just pulled the first working third-person over-the-shoulder controller I could find off the asset store. Just imported everything. That's a good way to get started if you want to animate characters, if you want to, deal with those forces. One of the things that I will have you do with your Blender models is I will basically have you insert that into a scene, and I'm going to have you actually insert a character controller of some kind, and you're going to explore your Blender model from the person's perspective. So it will be fun. I don't think that I saved my program. Maybe I did save. I saved part of it. Let's import my building here. And that froze. There we go. Beautiful. I've got a building. We've got a building with trees in it. Let's move you out of the trees. So I started playing around with the lab too, and then I stopped saving it at this point. But here's my nice, pretty building. All right, and if I go to my ball, where'd my ball go? Ball, you can come over here. Looks like we're gonna get some grass in our building. Go up in the Y a bit. And camera, we want you over here as well. Move you up a bit and rotate you some more so we can see our nice building. Maybe let's add a light source to our building too. So let's add a point light. Yeah, let's add a point light. Okay, let's make it a nice soft orange. And yeah, we'll call that good. See what happens. Directional light, let's turn off. All right, let's see how this works. Beautiful. Okay, where's my camera at again? So you should be seeing this. Why are we not seeing that? Is the camera not illuminating properly? Let's turn our directional light back on. Camera, what are you looking at? Interesting. Okay, well, camera is not happy with everything that's going on here, apparently. What if we drop our texture into here? Let's get rid of this. Oh, I see. Okay. I forgot. So in my Blender model, there is a camera. Yep, we have to turn you into prefab. Sure. Unpack. So get rid of the camera, get rid of the light. Let's see, where's our sphere? Let's move you up a little bit higher. Still have gravity, right? Okay. There we go. Oop, fell right through. Anybody know why it fell right through? We don't have a collider on it. Let's see if just dropping the rigid body on helps. Kind of. Although it made our actual objects disappear. So we don't want to apply that to the whole thing. Where is this cube? Is it this one? Yeah, that one. Let's add the rigid body onto this particular one. I think this may screw up our model a little bit though. Some nice grass clipping through. Yeah, that's not happy. Fair enough. Okay. We also would need to define colliders on here as well. Oh, okay, it's dropping through. I'm an idiot. So let's leave that there. I think I need to make it kinematic as well. So you stay. Okay, that's almost there. Kinematic. Last attempt before we move on to scripting. Nope, still dropping through. I think I actually need to define the interaction here. There's also something with like layers and the ability for objects to collide with each other that me just kind of dinking around going off script here is not. Yeah, well, when we make that kinematic, the ball doesn't drop. Right, where'd you go? Sphere. Let's try. Is kinematic? No. This cube. You are not kinematic. Let's change your collision detection to see if we can handle that. And then, oh, you don't have a collider, do you? You need a collider. You get a box collider. Perfect. That's exactly what you want to see. Let's make everybody nauseous. Let's parent our camera to that cube. And away we go. Whee! So it's now interacting with the terrain. God. Why is it going up? How? I'm okay. Perfect. I love it. It's everything you want. All right, I'm going to go ahead and create a new project here. Scripting demo while I flip over. All right, good enough. Let's save this mess and close it. All right, questions from Intro to Unity. Basically, you'll get some hands-on experience with that next week. It's a lot of fun. I do get a kick out of it, and this is about the time of the year where I realize, man, I really should be playing with Unity more because God, it's so easy to do stuff in. Like just to give you a feeling for stuff. So let me dip back to this little example here. Um, this one? Yeah, let's do this one. Whoa, stuff broke. Why are stuff broke? There we go, Professor Darcy, the gentleman detective. I've got my little tile map here. I've got characters moving around. I've got trees. Got a little blue crab that you can pick up. Um, that would probably take like 10 minutes to do in Unity once you got used to the 2D engine and the scripting and all that. But that is neither here nor there. The point of doing stuff in P5 is to play with P5. So let's talk code. Everything that I showed you in the last bit, issues notwithstanding, I suppose, has been all done in the Unity editor. I touched zero code. Once you want stuff to actually start being kind of interesting, I suppose, you're gonna have to start scripting. And in Unity, script is just another object. We're going to attach scripts to whichever game objects need to be controlled by a script. Again, I think I mentioned this last time, it's written in C#. There's very nice VS Code and Visual Studio interactivity. So you can get like IntelliSense up and running. I think you have to install extensions for that. But it makes development a lot easier. When I started with Unity, the integration was not very good and it was painful. It's a lot better now. If you're in the Linux world, obviously you can do VS Code now too, but there's also MonoDevelop. There's your favorite IDE, probably has Unity hooks for IntelliSense. So let's say that we want to define a behavior. What's a behavior? Well, we're going to attach a behavior to a rolling ball. We're going to change its velocity. We're going to move it in particular directions. We'll do all that fun stuff. What that means is create a script, stick it on an object, update the script attributes if you want to make it interactive. Depending on your Unity installation, with my current version, I had nothing to do. It just picked up VS Code by default, but it's in Preferences, External Tools. So Edit, Preferences, External Tools. It's just set to open by file extension, so all my C# files open with VS Code, but you can also pick it as well. I also don't have the IntelliSense hook set up, so it's not going to pop up in my VS Code. But let's go ahead and create a script. So again, it's a good idea to separate things out in your Unity. So I'm going to make a folder called scripts. Same suggestion for Godot or Unreal or any other engine. Create folders to separate things out. It makes life easier. Let's go ahead and define a script now. So we'll call this test script, please ignore. Beautiful. So we have a script here. We see a preview of the code over here. One thing to note if you are new to Unity, every time you save, it will compile your script, just as a forewarning. So anytime I make a change and I save it, Unity is going to try to compile it right away. So take that for what you will. If you're the type of person that hits Control S every 5 seconds, Unity is going to be doing stuff in the background. Or at least it is when it takes focus anyway. So we have our script. I'm going to double click it. And here it is popped up in VS Code. Let's make you bigger. Why are you still running? You should not be running anymore. So we see test script, please ignore.cs. I get some boilerplate code here. So C# should look very familiar to you if you're a Java person. Public class, name of my script, which matches the name of the file. We're going to inherit from mono behavior. This is import, or this is include mono behavior, I think, right? It's been a while since I've done C#. But we have a couple of baked-in functions here. So start, this is basically your setup function. This is what gets called right before your first frame. So basically the object is instantiated. It's going to call start, and then update will be called once per frame. We have other functions which are specific to Unity as well, but these are the two that you get right off the bat. So I could say something like, let's do public int index equals 0, start debug dot log index. Can't remember if this automatically handles for me or not. So let's say start plus index, update plus index. I saved it. I see over here compiling. I didn't do anything. I will see my output under console here. However, I'm going to run this and nothing's going to happen. Anybody know why nothing will happen? And this would be me leaning on the Unity people who have played with this already. I should be seeing console output, right? But I don't. Script isn't in the scene yet. Yes. So I created the script. It is currently an asset. I haven't attached it to anything. So since I'm not doing anything right now, I'm just going to drop it onto my camera. Now, if I click camera, I see my script down here. I even see the index. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But I'm going to hit play. And now, here's my update. Oh, I'm yeah, okay. I was planning on updating the index every frame, but there's start, update, update, update. There we go. If I want the actual behavior, I want index plus plus. There we go. Compile for me, please. That's cleared. Play. There we go. You can kind of see how quickly update works too. One thing that I did there was I declared index as a public int. When you declare something as public in Unity, it pops up in the inspector. I could seed index it. I almost went a dark route. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's do that instead of what I actually was thinking. We don't need to say what that was. All right, click console. Hey, look at that. It started out in the 10,000s. So you can play with your parameters basically here in the interface, which is very, very helpful. if you don't want to go back and like start redefining variables, just make it a public and set it. So we have basic scripting going on. Again, start's called at the first frame update. Update's called once per frame. Every time you save, it will compile. And then you have to attach it to an object. So that's everything that we've talked about so far. Okay, just some particulars of the scripting language for you. The using calls are basically importing your modules, your libraries that you want to have. So here you see using system collections generic, using Unity engine. These first two are just C# calls. There's nothing Unity special about them. What this means is that you can use any C# library that you want. Unity engine is one of them. So if you want to import something specific, maybe it's helpful for your coding practices, some kind of a data structure, a module, whatever it is, feel free to include it. You just have to import it correctly and make sure that it's installed. Class declaration, very Java-like. The name of the class has to match the name of the file. If you go ahead and update the file name, if I rename this, we'll call it we. Perfect. This doesn't update. Well, it does. Yeah, it does update. It got deleted. I don't think before. No, it didn't refactor. Okay, that's good. I know I'm not going crazy. So this got renamed here. It deleted the script that I had created before, but the class name didn't change. So if I click main camera, I see that the script here works, or it's at least loaded. I try to run it, I'm going to get an error. Basically, this is going to be the compiler error that you will see if you screw something up, or one of them anyway. So if I change this to 140s, perfect. Best class names. So this should resolve, and we should be back. Yeah, there we go. We see console output. If I screw something up, so I make a typo, let's go whoop, just like that. Best typo in the world. It's going to compile. Big red error message. I try to play. You're going to see this a lot. All compiler errors have to be fixed. Okay. So there is that. Undone, resaved, automatically building. Life is good. Other things with Unity, your standard C# concepts translate from Java. So if you've never touched C#, to me, C# is just Microsoft's version of Java with its own little particular syntax issues. But you get your standard types, your scopes, public, private, protected, all of that kind of fun object-oriented behavior exists here too. And remember, public variables are visible to everybody. It's just uppercase Java. There we go. Perfect. As our nice C# language. C#, I think is what the kids are calling it now, right? Other things, if statements, for loops, all the same. So if you know how to program in Java or C#, nothing different for Unity here. We do have some Unity specific functions though, where these functions are going to be coming out of that Unity engine library. We also have awake, we have start, we have update, fixed update, late updates, we have our collision detection functions. Basically, we have lots of specific things that we would need in Unity. So if we call awake, this gets called once that game object becomes instantiated. So if you want to initialize a variable, awake is a good place to do it. The difference between awake and start is that you have something that is enabled and instantiated. It doesn't have to be enabled in awake. And enabled, let's add a game object here. Let's just use our camera. We can disable them. Where is enable? This one? There we go. Little tick box here, checkbox here. If I hit play, I'm not going to see anything for one, but my script isn't going to run either. Yeah, because it's not enabled. If I check this back, you also see this kind of went gray here. If I check it back, camera back, I'll get my code again. Update once per frame. This is good for handling animations, handling artificial intelligence calls. So if you want to update enemies, update NPCs, stuff like that. Kind of generic updates where you're not super dependent on like the physics engine. You're basically getting a guarantee this will be called once per frame. We can play with the timings though of this. So if you need a call to be made at a specific point, we would call fixed update or late update. And basically what we have here, our fixed update is going to be good for your physics updates. Basically it happens at a very specific time per frame. Late update gets called at the very end of the frame. And again, frame is that like tick of seconds in memory. It's not an actual second, it's a simulated unit of time. Basically what it's going to do is it will loop through every single game object you have and call late update at the very end of your, your while one loop. And what's kind of helpful is I've got a link to this update and fixed update tutorial, and it gives you some code and a little bit of a walkthrough on it. So I'm going to copy and paste this code, and because I don't have C# set up in Unity to really do anything, so I'm going to get rid of all this stuff here. Those of you that are offended by particular tabbing and spacings are just going to have to deal. So we don't have a start, but leave it as is. So fixed update, update, fixed update time, update time. And we're going to check the time since basically the last tick. So we're going to compile. Hopefully it's going to be fine since I don't have a start. Okay. Run. Okay, that should be enough. So we see here fixed update time 0.002, update time, update time, update time, update time, fixed update 0.002. So these update calls here, you're seeing kind of sporadic like timing updates, whereas fixed update is going to be called at the exact same frequency. Again, good for physics-based stuff, good for things where you need a very particular update at a very particular time per frame. Late update, this is a handy little thing here too. So if you want to move a character, he's bumped into by another character and ends up different, and you have the camera fixed on your character, it's possible you get like a camera jiggle. So basically, I update my character, an NPC comes along and bumps into you, your camera is fixed on you, but you get pushed back because of that collision. So the camera kind of jiggles. If you are updating the camera and you do it in late update, that jiggle would already have been taken care of, so you get more of a smooth kind of a view of that. And I've got a link here for this particular issue as well, if you want to dig more into that. Classes, you should know classes. We have a couple of particulars here too. So if you want to, write your own class, it is possible. Like this would be if you want to add a new class to your script file, for instance. Make sure that the actual class that you're calling matches the file name. Again, you have to manually update that unless you go through and allow like the automatic refactoring. But if you want to add extra classes, you have to make it serializable. At least this is the case before. I haven't checked it with my 2021 version of Unity that I downloaded this past week, but typically you need to serialize your classes for Unity to pick it up. All right, so let's do some more coding. We have input that we can handle as well. And those of you that are already Unity experts, feel free to cringe at this because I know there's a brand new input manager I have not figured out or taken the time to learn it yet. But be aware, there is a new one out there. This is the classic input view. So what I'm going to do here is I want to get the Fire 1 button, and this is already baked into Unity, by the way. So let's go ahead and let's get rid of all this stuff. What is going on here? There we go. Delete. All right. If input.get button down Fire 1, debug.log Fire 1 pressed. How neat. Semicolon, because this is not Python. Okay, basically what we've got here. I can also add on debug. Oops, we want some curly braces going on here. Debug.log input, nope, capital input, please. Dot mouse position. M is lowercase, P is uppercase. Okay. What's going to happen when I hit Fire 1? I get a Fire 1 pressed, I get the mouse position, and let's round it out by adding on a separator. And let's add on a little face in between. Let's add on a few more dashes to even it out. One more. Okay. No, you are too many spaces. Okay, so this will compile. This console should clear out. I'm going to hit play. I see nothing because it's not running yet. Fire 1 pressed, how neat. I clicked my mouse button. I'm just kind of clicking, clicking, clicking. So here is the X, Y, and Z positions of my mouse. If I want to play with the buttons, Edit, Project Settings, Input Manager. And I extend this, Fire 1. I can set multiple buttons for input. I can also play with some of the like debouncing or the sensitivity of my various inputs. Just depends on what you want to do. So all of these are defined in the input manager here. All right, so Fire 1, Fire 2, Fire 3, jump, mouse X, mouse Y, all these kind of basic common actions that you might take. You can also add your own too. So if I want to add on, oops, where's my add? It says consider using the new input system. It's very friendly. All right, there's a way to add a new one. I'm sure it's somewhere in here, but maybe that's part of the new one. I thought there was a button for adding extra commands. But regardless, this should at least be enough to get you going for now. These are the baked-in inputs that you can have. Also, you could handle like touch with this. You could handle joysticks, joypads, your DDR controller from the late mid 2000s. That can all come in here. So if I hit play again, control, mouse, control, mouse. Pretty straightforward stuff here. If I want to get a specific key code, I can basically reference that with the key code object here. So you see keycode.space, there's keycode dot, I think it's like the uppercase letter is what you'd be going for. So let's add this in here too. So we'll leave that in. If keycode, or sorry, if input.get key down keycode.space debug.log space pressed. While I'm typing, anybody know the difference between key down and key up and why you would use it? Space pressed, space released. And I'm going to go ahead and add, let's see, a few more, or one more here. Let's say keycode.e. E pressed. So how do I want to do pressed versus released? Pretty sure we talked about this eons ago at this point, but play. Space pressed, space released. E pressed. If I hold E, I should be getting multiple. Oh, you know what? It's not. Huh. Interesting. I must be thinking of a different command. I guess regardless, the. Okay, it's just dot get key. Silly me. Not get key down, just get key. Basically, what you can do is if you're holding a key down, you either can handle an action when somebody presses a key, or when they release a key, or when they're holding down a key. Just depends on what behavior you want to express. Value cannot be null. Interesting. There's my E pressed. So we've got a whole, I'm just holding it down. You can see my number of messages going nuts here. So that would be if you want to not make your player keep hitting the space bar to fire their bullets or something like that. So get key down, get key up. One off, repeated. You can play with the repeat rate as well. Okay, so we have inputs, we have updates, we have physics-based updates. What we will do is end here for today. So we could talk about a quick touchpad as well. So let's say that you're making a game and you want it to be made for a mobile where you don't have a keyboard or a mouse, and you don't want to handle touch controls. You could make a virtual D-pad. So like you would render a object on screen, and I would see like the arrow buttons, the D-pad that you see with like a Nintendo controller. And then just when I press the buttons, the touch event would register, and then I could move left, move right, move up, move down. Or I could pick a point on the screen, make the character walk towards that point, as long as I understand how to register where I clicked or where I touched. My guess is there is already a pre-baked asset for a virtual D-pad up on the asset store somewhere, but I've got a link here for you to peruse as well. So yeah, we will end there for today. Does anybody have any questions so far? D-pad. Look at that. Touch gestures for Unity. Virtual D-pad for your first-person shooter. What's free? Simple input system. What are you? Nice. There you go. Is that like a Steam controller D-pad kind of thing? I like it. Oh, that's a steering wheel. Silly. Okay. But you're basically adding buttons on that you would touch. All right, are we all good for today? If so, and a couple minutes early, I will see you all next time and hope you have a wonderful weekend. Today is Thursday, right? Yes. Okie dokie. Hey, everybody. Beautiful. All right. Have a good one.